Today is January 18th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I'm an alcoholic, and it is a thrill, an honor, and a joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 and 12. Yesterday, we read the heart of the steps here in how it works, and today we're going to journey through Chapter 5 as well, pages 60 through 64, and we're also going to journey through Chapter 3, Step 3, pages 37 through 39. So with that, let's get to the book. Bottom of page 60. Being convinced we were at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood Him. Just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, if people would only do it as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor may sometimes be quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he's more likely to have varied traits. What usually happens? The show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think that life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes, on the next occasion, still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker even when he's trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of his world if he only manages well? Is it not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? And do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He is like the retired businessman who lolls in Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining about the sad state of the nation. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. Politicians and reformers who are sure that all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him. The alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. Whatever our protestations, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, and our self-pity? Selfishness and self-centeredness. That, we think, is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation. But we invariably find that at some point in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he doesn't usually think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of the selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without His aid. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we couldn't live up to them even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. This is the how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal, and we are His agents. He is the Father, and we are His children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we passed to freedom. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Being all-powerful, he provided what we needed, if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we have felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered that we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. We were now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker, as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help, of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will, always. We thought well before taking this step, making sure that we're ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. We found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person, such as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor. But it is better to meet with God alone than with one who might misunderstand. The wording, of course, was quite optional so long as we expressed the idea, voicing it without reservation. This was only a beginning, though, if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was vital and a crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by the strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom. So we had to get down to the causes and the conditions. All right, so that wraps up our reading for the Big Book today. We will now read Step 3, continue on to the 12 and 12. Step 3, page 37, halfway down. Should his own image in the mirror be too awful to contemplate, and it usually is, he might first take a look at the results normal people are getting from self-sufficiency. Everywhere he sees people filled with anger and fear, society breaking up into warring fragments. Each fragment says to the others, we are right and you are wrong. Every such pressure group, if it is strong enough, self-righteously imposes its will upon the rest. And everywhere the same thing is being done on an individual basis. The sum of this mighty effort is less peace and less brotherhood than before. The philosophy of self-sufficiency is not paying off. Plainly enough, it is a bone-crushing juggernaut whose final achievement is ruin. Therefore, we who are alcoholics consider ourselves fortunate indeed. Each of us has had his own near-fatal encounter with the juggernaut of self-will, and has suffered enough under its weight to be willing to look for something better. So it is by circumstance rather than by any virtue that we have been driven to AA, have admitted defeat, have acquired the rudiments of faith, and now want to make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to a higher power. We realize that the word dependence is distasteful to many psychiatrists and psychologists, as it is to alcoholics. Like our professional friends, we too are aware that there are wrong forms of dependence. We've experienced many of them. No adult man or woman, for example, should be into too much emotional dependence upon a parent. They should have been weaned long before, and if they have not been, they should wake up to the fact. This very form of faulty dependence has caused many a rebellious alcoholic to conclude that dependence on any sort must be intolerably damaging. But dependence upon an AA group or upon a higher power hasn't produced any baleful results. When World War II broke out, this spiritual principle had found its first major test. AAs entered the services and were scattered all over the world. Would they be able to take their discipline, stand up under fire, and endure the monotony and misery of war? Would the kind of dependence that they had learned in AA carry them through? Well, it did. They had even fewer alcoholic lapses or emotional binges than AA's safe at home did. They were just as capable of endurance and valor as many of the other soldiers. Whether in Alaska or on the Salerno beachhead, their dependence upon a higher power worked. And far from being a weakness, this dependence was their chief source of strength. All right, guys, that concludes our reading for today. And boy, they're very, very similar today. That's powerful. A lot of talk about step 3. I always have loved the 3rd step prayer. I pray it every morning. Relieve me of the bondage of self. Because it really is bondage. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do your will. I love that part of the prayer. I can totally relate to, being the director, right? Wanting to have everything go my way. Hey, if everyone would just do what I'd like them to do, life would be a lot easier, right? But then we find it exhausting because everyone else has self-will as well. They're going to do what they want to do. I think turning my will and my life over to the care of God daily, and again, for me, it's daily, if not hour by hour or minute by minute. I feel a lot more serenity, a lot more peace. All right, guys. Well, I hope you all have a great day today. Again, it's just a thrill to be here with you all on this journey, in this lifeboat of recovery. And we will see you back here tomorrow.